The best class in 5th edition? Clerics. So I know many of you would regard maybe a wizard as the best class in 5th edition. And late game, you would have a very strong argument. But I think cleric is definitively the best class in Dungeons and Dragons due to its viability throughout the entire game. Even at first level, a cleric is incredible. I know what you're saying. Well, we got Wish. Well, we have Divine Intervention. So, yes, can you cast Wish more often than we can do Divine Intervention? Yes, I will give you that. But we can do Divine Intervention earlier. Now it's a random chance earlier, but we can still do it earlier. And while, Wish, you have to get into all the nitty-gritty of it. Divine Intervention is the power of a literal god coming to help you. And thematically, I think it could be a lot more fun than Wish. Let's get into some other points, right? So let's start out. You're starting D&D. Maybe this is the first time you're ever making a character. You're just looking online for maybe some ideas of what type of character you want to make. Well, I'll tell you what. Most people don't pick cleric. Why? Because cleric is often seen as just the healer of the party, and that's not the case. Many of the subclasses for cleric get you access to heavy armor turn 1, so you're going to be basically as tanky as your paladin or your fighter. You're going to have a very similar armor class. You'll have less health, but with such a high armor class, you're not going to be taking many hits to begin with. Additionally, you probably won't be in the front lines unless you're playing something like a war cleric where you're mainly melee focused. You don't even need to be in the front line to do reliable damage. You have good cantrips that can get past AC. So if you're fighting against a knight or something that has a high AC, you have cantrips that are DC based, so you can do damage even without the need of, somehow reducing their AC, which is very difficult to do in 5th edition, especially for a low level character. You have access to healing spells, yes, but Guiding Bolt is an incredible spell. It's good damage, it's good range, it gives advantage on the next attack, so it supports your allies, and it doesn't use your concentration. So you can be concentrating on something like Bless. You can throw out some guiding bolts to hit the enemies pretty hard, or you can save some healing for your allies if they go down if you think you need it. And kind of the fun of cleric is yes, they can do some incredible burst damage and they can do some good healing. But it's that balance, right? It's knowing when you can blow your spell slots or a good portion of your spell slots to just nuke the enemy, and when you have to, hold some back to keep the other players alive. And that kind of balancing act can add some nuance to it. So if you're brand new, I'd recommend you just pick a healing focused subclass, such as Life Cleric, because then you have your Channel Divinity. The number of Channel Divinities you get scales with level. You get it back on a short rest, so you'll always have a way of healing your party if you need to. It's an AoE heal, so you can just pop it, boom, get anyone that's down back up once a fight for free. And that way, if you want to blow your spell slots using cool abilities like Spiritual Weapon or Spirit Guardians or one of the other cool, fun damage spells you have access to, you'll always have your Channel Divinities to fall back on, so you don't have to worry too much about letting your party down. Now, like I said, I've played a lot of Cleric. I think I've probably played Cleric characters over 10 times in this edition. It is definitely my most played class. Druid is my second most played class. And I started in Pathfinder as a Druid. So for me to switch from, Druid, which was my baby, to Cleric, and to like it so much is mainly because of how the edition makes the two classes. I think thematically I can get closer to my old school druid from Pathfinder than I can with the current druid rules, unfortunately. That's a bit of a tangent. Now, I would advise you not to just try and pick the strongest subclasses for cleric. I think, for example, the Twilight Cleric is a bit absurd as giving your party members basically a shield of 2d6, keeping the highest one if they haven't used their shield up, is pretty ridiculous. I would encourage you more to, maybe pick one of the ones that are still really good, like life or war or light if you want to do more of like a AoE kind of damage thing. There's a lot of good ones, is my point. There's a lot of really good ones. There are a few that I think are a bit beyond good and kind of to the like upper scale. Like maybe if you guys are all agreeing to play at the highest level of play and the DM's going to throw some really hard stuff at you, you can kind of go for those really, really good ones. But I think for the most part, you probably should stick to the ones that are still not terrible. In fact, I don't really think any of them are absolutely terrible. Some of the benefits aren't ideal. Like, I think my favorite one is Tempest, and I don't think the Tempest ones really do it justice just because I think Tempest Domain came out before Elemental Evils, and a lot of like the fun spells that would make the Tempest Cleric really good aren't on the Cleric spell list, for example. So the synergy is not really there. But even just playing a Tempest Cleric, which I have done twice through for a campaign, I've had great results with it, even though by many it would be considered a suboptimal subclass choice, just because of how just incredibly strong cleric is. Unlike many other classes, where if you don't pick one of the stronger options, you may really struggle to play well, like monks or rangers who are kind of on the weaker end, and rogues. Monks, rangers, and rogues who are kind of a little bit on the weaker end class wise. If you don't pick a one of the better subclasses, you may be really hurting. Well, because cleric is so strong, you can pick definitely any of the subclasses, even the weaker ones, and you'll still be incredibly effective as a character. You won't really be behind. You'll be well above current monk's baseline damage. If you subscribe to the optomancer kind of style of thinking, but even if you don't, it's a really safe bet. And I know says that wizard is the best class, including Trent Monk, and I don't disagree with him. But for a new player, having that survivability, right, with the heavy armor or at least medium armor, if you took a subclass that doesn't give you heavy armor proficiency, the higher health, right? You have a higher health dice, so you're going to have more health on average. You have the ability to heal. So in the event that something goes really wrong, you can very easily get someone up that might be able to, save the situation. I think understanding how your party members work so you can synergize well with them is also a big part of it. I did a short on law clerics, right? And sorry, order clerics. And the order cleric has an ability that allows the player whom I cast a spell on to get an additional attack. But for example, Bless, right? Bless it targets multiple people. So I have to pick one of them to do an attack as a reaction. Knowing like, hey, the rogue, right, would get sneak attack because the fighter's next to them, and sneak attack from the rogue will probably be more damage than the fighter's attack. Like little things like that can kind of force you to learn the other classes in your party and kind of help you understand more of the game and maybe give you some more ideas of how you want to play later on, right? So if you play a cleric and you focus on just like understanding what your party does, your different players do, and try to support them, help them as much as possible, you might discover, hey, maybe next game I want to play a rogue because I really thought, after helping the rogue in various ways, I think rogue would be something really cool and something I want to explore later. So it's a good way to kind of learn. And believe me, the players are going to be really happy to teach you because you understanding how they work will just mean that you can make them work better, right? So it's a win-win for everybody. And even if you're, playing solo, for example, we had a situation where my character was trying to hold off a white dragon while my players left because I was playing a. If you watch my Strong Mouse video, you're aware of this character. I was playing a Tempest cleric that was a worshiper of Strong Mouse, and we had gotten to a moment where our party was about to have a total party wipe. So, RP wise, I decided that my character was going to get everyone out. So I used Aid, which is fantastic AoE spell. It gives everyone 5 HP. It can go above their maximum. So even if you cast it when someone's at full, they still get the HP. And the way the rules is written, if you go from 0 to 1, you're back up. So it's a great way to get AoE heals for second level. Fun fact. Got the players up. And then I just was like, all right, well, they're running away, right? I need to keep the boss on me. So I just went ham on them. I think we were like mid level, so like probably like seventh or sixth around there. So I definitely had access to third level spells and just like popping, just going Nova, just like sending it, as a cleric. I don't think people realize just how much you can spit out just like so quickly. You have Spirit Guardians up, and you gotta circle around you. Every time it's their turn, they're taking damage. It's slowing them, so it's difficult for them to get away from your melee people or from you, depending on how you want to set it up. If you want to be right up on them, or if you want to be a little bit back and just keep them in the zone so that they have a hard time getting away, getting to your squishies, getting into your back line. You're hitting them every turn with damage. That's your concentration, right? So you're thinking, oh, I can't do too much. Well, if you cast Spirit Weapon doesn't take your concentration. You can have that up as well. Bonus action, additional attacks. So now you have both those up. Obviously, you can only cast one a turn, so you won't be able to do all this in one turn. But you can, after turn two, you're going to have both these additional damage types up. Then after that, you can burn, so you can chuck out some guiding bolts. You can chuck out some other spells. You can, I think it's what the fourth level spell has Guardians of Faith. Yeah, you can throw Guardians of Faiths out. Guardians of Faith also doesn't use your concentration. And anyone that's within, I think it's 5 feet of them, takes damage. So you can kind of set up this area of just like pure death. And they're just hitting people and hitting people and hitting people. And if you have a way to like lock them down, you have someone else in your party that can control their movement or stop them completely or really punish them for moving. Maybe they have like the sentinel feat if they're a melee or something like that. You really can just hold the map. You can control the map. You can do a ton of damage. And then you still have your, channel divinities if depending on which subclass you are, that gives you additional utility. You can give the entire party additional health going into the fight with things like Hero's Feast. If anyone dies, you have the ability to bring them back with Revivify, or if they've been dead for longer, obviously you might need to use Resurrection or True Resurrection, depending on what level of dead they are. You have that ability. You have things like Regenerate. You have things like you can remove status effects from people, getting them back up. There's a lot of really important utility that you have access to, as well as just some incredibly powerful, fun abilities that scale really well. So even at higher levels, if you might be thinking, "Oh, I don't have much use of a first level spell slot anymore." But Bless is still good. Bless is still good. If it's a minor encounter and you don't want to waste one of your higher level spell slots, you can check out a Bless for your martial characters. They'll still appreciate it. Using a first level Cure Wounds or Healing Word on someone that is down is still a huge play. And thematically, right, you can pick a subclass and you can kind of, research deities or research ideas attached to that subclass, and it can make making your character a lot easier. So if you're like, okay, I'm gonna pick a cleric. I don't really know what cleric to pick, so I'm just gonna look through the book and find one that I think looks kind of cool. Okay, I'm kind of into like water and storms, right? I'm into like that kind of idea. I'm gonna Google, you know, just like water and storm deities. And then, you find one that you like. And then you kind of read what their tenets are, their like virtues or the things that they look for in their followers. And you're like, all right, cool. I'll make that like my bond or my ideal. And that'll kind of influence my background choice. And then you can build your character off of that. Like you don't have to have all of this thought out. You can just pick a cleric. You can just look at the domains, be like, okay, this domain sounds cool. I'm gonna look up some deities based on it. Read like two or three. Pick your favorite one. Read more about it. Read more about it. Use that to inform your other decisions, and then very quickly you can have it's your first time playing. You don't even know really how to make a character. To having a really solid idea that can synergize well with the rest of your party, depending on what the rest of your party is, that might influence kind of your spell choices. Or if you have no idea what to do and none of the domains sound particularly good to you, you literally have no opinion about anything. You can just be like, okay, uh, I'm just going to pick one at random and just open the player's handbook. There's multiple of them. Just roll a dice and get one, and any of the ones you get from the player's handbook will work. You could be totally random with it, and it will function. It'll be fine. And I cannot say that about every class. That's the beauty of Cleric, and you can kinda tailor, right? You can kinda tailor that Cleric to do what you need to do. Now, obviously, I play a very support-heavy kind of role based on what you've heard. I'm very aware of, like, the healing spells, the support spells, but also, like, the control spells. Like, when I'm talking about Guardian Spirits, yes, does it do quite a bit of damage? It does, but it also stops the enemies from moving, and because 'cause I'm more of a control support kinda character, I'm able to use the cleric's toolkit to beat that goal. But if I just wanted to be straight Nova, straight blast, you can do that. You can just go full in on, one time use, super heavy hitting spells. They have some great options for that, like Harm. Harm does an incredible amount of damage. Sunburst. There's a bunch of really high level spells that do incredible amounts of damage that are in the cleric book. Believe me, you will not be wanting more from the clerics, and you can kind of do a lot of different things with them. If you're thinking about playing D&D and somehow you found this video, or maybe you've been playing D&D for a while and you've never played a cleric, never even looked at a cleric, never even considered a cleric, just remember that cleric is probably the strongest class in the game. You will have a good time. You will be able to do amazing things. It's only the question of finding the cleric that works for your playstyle and what you like to do. Because you like to, you're someone that doesn't like to play casters typically and you're a melee boy, well, go war cleric. I mean, the first, what, 5 levels or so, first 4 levels, you're going to be probably out damaging your fighter because essentially you'll be able to make 2 attacks more often than they will be able to unless you get a lot of short rests because that's just how war clerics are. And if you're only playing, a low level campaign, that's a great option. I mean, heck, you can use a war domain cleric as a tank and it'd be fine. Or you could use a life domain cleric as a tank because same thing, you still have access to heavy armor. You're not doing as much damage, but hey, they hit you a bunch, boom, pop your channel of divinity, get a big heal. You're still going. You're still riding it out. Is it the best early game tank in the game? No, but can you tailor a cleric to kind of meet whatever role in the party you need and it will work? It won't be as good as, a super optimized perfect class option, but it'll still do a really good job if you want to do AoE damage. The light cleric is great for that. In fact, the light cleric will do more AoE damage probably earlier on in the game than something like a wizard will because there aren't a ton of really good wizard spells at like first level that do good AoE, while the Channel of Divinity you'll get access to at second level, Radiance of Dawn, is fantastic early level. I would say it does incredible damage, probably all the way up to 5th level. And by then, you're going to have access to things like Fireball. And Fireball does outperform Radiance of Dawn, but guess what? Light Clerics get it too. So you'll be on the same level as the Wizards who get Fireball at when they get 3rd level spells. You'll have Radiance of Dawn until then, which will make you probably slightly better than those Wizards who are trying to do AoE damage. And then you'll be on par with them once they get their level spells. So I think my long-winded rant of why you should consider clerics and why you should try to play a cleric if you have never played a cleric before and or you have never played D&D at all before is a good one. Furthermore, I'll tell you this. The amount of times a group is full, but then they find out that you main cleric or druid or another support character, and oddly enough, they don't have one of those and they're willing to open up another spot for you. I'll tell you, that's happened quite a few times for me. I've had quite a few groups who told multiple people that the game was full, and then they contacted me directly, and I was like, "Oh, I thought your game was full," and they were like, "Yeah, but we know you like to play support characters, and we really need someone who's willing to play a support character because no one else is going to do it." And then they're shocked that some days when I really need to, and like we're about to wipe, I'll bust out more damage than some of our main DPS dealers because even though even though I'm a cleric, it doesn't mean I'm not a harmacist. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for watching. If you're also a huge cleric supporter, list down in the comments below maybe your favorite moment playing as a cleric. And if you've never played as a cleric before, maybe list a domain that you think is super cool, that you personally identify with or you personally connect with down in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.